Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard. And we have a pretty interesting show for you. If you listened to last week's, I got pretty fired up, especially with that Detroit game. Some different things that happened in there with an octopus being thrown on the ice, Cam Fowler not being in there in the final moments and whatnot. And I wasn't really happy with the way that game went down. You can go back and listen to the last show where Eddie and I, we got pretty heated about what was going on the Ducks homestand. So on this show, we're going to cover the last game on the homestand against the Sharks. It was actually the 1,000th regular season home game at Honda Center. And then the Ducks went on the road trip and they played some games against St. Louis and Washington. Basically, all these games were filled with controversy. So there's plenty of things to talk about here. We also have an interview with Teemu Selanne that we'll talk about in the middle of the show. And then towards the end, Eddie Richard will do his league news and we'll weigh in on some things in there. A lot of interesting things going on around the league, especially with the refs blowing some calls, a.k.a. Ref You Suck. So there's a lot of stuff we got to talk about. And we'll start off, I guess, Eddie, with the end of the homestand here. The Ducks played the San Jose Sharks. They were on a 4-game losing streak. And you thought with the Sharks coming to town that, hey, they're playing a rivalry team. Maybe the Ducks will win this game and, turn things around. And they actually started out this game pretty good. Raquel scored early in the game, just a minute in. Hertl scored a controversial goal, which we'll talk about. Silverberg then scored. The Ducks were up 2-1 late in the second period. Hertl scored another one, and then San Jose took over in the third and ended up pulling away in this one. But this game, kind of frustrating. The Ducks had a 1-goal lead twice in there, and they weren't able to hang on and win. What did you think about this game, Eddie, as far as, even the controversial goal or just your thoughts in general as the Ducks, dropped this one to the San Jose Sharks?
Just pissed off again. It just stung. I mean, come on, your last game of the homestand, you couldn't get a win. Your 1,000th game, it's like that 1,000 curse, I guess. It Getzlaf 1,000th game, and then the Ducks 1,000th regular season game. It just, it pissed me off. There's a nice little scrap from Delorier again. That was pretty good. That was good to see. I don't know. It didn't seem like the Ducks had that much will or fight. It seemed like they were defeated before the game even started. Even them going up 2-1, you just didn't really feel that positive flow of energy that they really wanted. It seemed like they just wanted the game to end, and if they won, they won. If they lost, they lost, and they wanted to move on. I think they were just frustrated with themselves of how they performed the last few games. And I just didn't see a lot of fight in them, especially against our northern rivals over there. I expected a little more bite to this game, but it was just, it didn't really go the way the Ducks wanted to, and that's partly their fault. And yeah, I think that one goal was BS, and I think that was a big game changer too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when Hertl scored, he basically pushed Gibson's pad back into the net. At first, they didn't call it a goal initially. They thought Gibson made the save. They went back and reviewed it, and they said, oh no, the puck crossed the line. And then, I don't know what's going on with Dallas Eakins right now. We talked about how he kind of mismanaged the game at the end there with Detroit. He didn't put Fowler out there in the final moments of the game. The Ducks ended up giving the game-tying goal in that one and lost in overtime. But here, he didn't even challenge it. And when you saw that play, it's pretty clear to me that he pushed it in. And you should have at least rolled the dice and went for the challenge. They didn't do that. The Ducks did respond. Silverberg did score on the power play, which we all know how the power play has been doing so awesome this year. But the Ducks did score on the power play. Thomas Hertl then got a legit goal at the end of the second period. And then the special teams kind of fell apart in the third period. The Ducks gave up a power play goal, and they also gave up a shorthanded goal, and the Ducks got down. There was just no recovering from that. But I'm a little disappointed with Dallas Eakins lately in some of these games, Eddie. We've been pretty complimentary of him and whatnot throughout the season. But, I called him out in the Dallas game, in the Detroit game. And I'm kind of calling him out here, too. I don't know why he didn't at least challenge that play against Thomas Hertl's first goal in this game.
Yeah, that was just kind of puzzling. Like, okay, what's going on? Once the ref went over there, I'm like, all right, he's going to challenge it. And it's a legit challenge because he wasn't pushing the puck past the line. He pushed Gibson's pad. He restricted Gibson from getting his pad forward and making that save. It's like, that should not have been a goal, period. But he just kind of just went with it, and I guess he just took the cautious route, which, I mean, your team's losing that many games in front of the home fans, too. At that, and you're not even going to try to challenge it. I don't think, like, any of the Ducks fans, I mean, you have those few people that like to just, no matter what you say or what they do, they're always going to be upset. You can go 82-0 and they'll still be pissed off about something. But I don't think any of like Ducks fans would have got mad if we lost that challenge. At least you went and try to stick up for your team, stick up for your goaltender, because that was absolutely BS and that should not have been a goal. And once again, I'm not trying to make excuses like, oh, poor Ducks, they're just getting shot on and blah, blah, blah. But legitimately, that should not have been a goal. Then Hertl getting the first star of the game, like I don't know why he got that first star from, celebrating. Because, Hertl sold that goal, too. And he's like, when that puck crossed the line and everyone kept playing, he went right to the bench and was celebrating a goal. It's like, all right, good job selling it. But I don't know. I think he just took the cautious route. And you have someone with experience as an advisor in Sutter. I think he should, if he's not, start picking that guy's brain a little bit more, because that should have been a definite challenge right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If they challenge it and they lose the challenge, fine, but they didn't even go for it. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Dallas Aikens is thinking there or who he's talking to, but I wasn't really happy with the way he managed the game, like I said, against Detroit and here. So the only good news, I guess, was Max Jones did score another goal in here. He started kind of getting going. He got one late in the third, tried to get the Ducks back into it. They were down by 1. And then, of course, Logan Couture scored, and then the Ducks lost this one. But, frustrating. The Ducks at this point, they had now lost 5 games in a row, all 5 at home on top of that, which, was just really irritating. And then they ended up going on the road, and this road trip's going to be a tough one. And they started it out against the St. Louis Blues, the defending Stanley Cup champs. And it was funny because one of our writers, George, was like, I think there's going to be an upset. The Ducks are going to win. And the Ducks did win this game. So, this Ducks team is such a strange team. They beat, high-flying teams like Edmonton, St. Louis. They lose to Chicago and Minnesota. But in this game, it was just a great game for the Ducks all the way around. Ryan Getzlaf scored early in this contest. Derek Grant gets 3 goals in this game. He gets one early in the first period. He gets a shorthanded goal. He gets an empty net goal from an unselfish play from Getzlaf too. And the Ducks pull this one out. They get outshot badly, 38-25, but they win this one, Eddie, 4-1. And I mean, you got to feel good. I mean, you've lost 5 games at home. You go on the road against the champs or defending champs, and you beat them in their house. I mean, that's pretty good considering the Blues had only lost 3 games in regulation all season at this point.
Yeah, they didn't party as hard as the Washington Capitals did. I think they just got back to business and trying to make a back-to-back cup run. But I think Derek Grant stole the show. I mean, that first goal between Jones and Getzlaf was a thing of beauty. It's just instant chemistry on that goal. It was just beautiful to see. And then Grant, getting unfortunate, for Binnington, he plays the puck wrong, goes off to Laurier's skate, right to Grant in the empty net. It was one of those foreshadowing nights for Derek Grant. And then the rest is history. We go to the second period, St. Louis scores, and my pit in my stomach, like, oh, here it goes. Ducks went up 2-0. I can see St. Louis maybe winning 4-2, and it's like, oh, it's getting that. And then boom, we get a penalty kill. We're on the penalty kill. I'm like, oh, great. If they score and tie it, it's just going to take the momentum out. And then first center Derek Grant ends up intercepting the puck and goes down and makes a little Gretzky move and right between the legs of Binnington and scores a beautiful goal. That goal was I think that goal kind of sucked all the wind out of the Blues. They were kind of done after that. I mean, yeah, they still played hard, and they were still challenging, out-shooting the Ducks, and controlling most of the play at times. But I think Derek Grant's goal was kind of the nail in the coffin right there, just as far as their play thing, not just whatever's on the scoreboard. I think that goal just, he was owning Binnington that game. Like, that was Derek Grant's net. It wasn't even Binnington's net. And then, of course, the very end, his hat trick goal, which was amazing. It's just an unselfish play by Getzlaf, just trying to find Grant instead of shooting for the open net, which a lot of players tend to do. Being the captain and leader and an unselfish person that he is, he finds Grant and gets him his first career hat trick. And with the special bonus, too, at the end, Grant was talking about how he made a bet with his buddy that if he scored a hat trick this season, he gets to name his buddy's firstborn. So we tweeted on DucksNPucks, if it's a girl, you should name it Gloria.
I was laughing at that. And just so people know, I'm not the one that always runs the social media. Eddie does it. I have Aaron and Mario and a couple other guys that also help run the social media stuff. But Eddie was running the account that night. So when I saw the whole thing about Gloria, I was just dying laughing. I was like, oh my God. So who knows? If it's a boy, it might be Derek. If it's a girl, it might be Gloria. I don't know. But that was some funny stuff at the end of this game. And all was good. The Ducks won. They ended the losing streak. And then there was a little bit of controversy during this game, I guess. You saw Sundqvist ran into Gibson, and people were wondering kind of what was going to happen with that. A scrum ensued. People were like, is he going to get suspended? Is he going to get fined? He ended up being fined the maximum amount under the CBA, but he wasn't suspended any of the games. What did you think about that play? He kind of went for the puck behind the net, and then he crashed into Gibson, hit him in the head, knocked Gibson over. What were your thoughts? Suspension, fine, both. What did you think?
My first initial thought was I was disappointed in Delorier for not dropping his gloves instantly and going after him instead of just, kind of wrestling around with him. I mean, that's your goalie, number one, and if someone touches your goalie, that you should go all out, like, regardless. And I wouldn't have been mad if he got a penalty and it cost the Ducks, for the fact that he's defending his goalie. That was my first initial reaction. The second one, I didn't think it looked that bad from the first angle I had, and I didn't really get a chance to sit there, watch it, and digest it, because like you were saying, Mike, I was running not just Twitter, but running the Instagram and Facebook, and just doing all three social media platforms at once, and trying to cover the game live. So it just kind of gets overwhelming where I don't have that time to sit there and really analyze it. But when I saw other angles of it, yeah, I still stand by my original statement saying I don't believe it should have been a suspension because it shouldn't have. But I do believe the fine was warranted. He had ample enough time to pump the brakes on and stop. He had a second or two, and he's a professional hockey player, and those players are there for a reason, and you have that time to stop or at least turn your body away to make that minimum contact with the goalie. And he didn't. He just tried to fly through Gibson, and and that could have hurt Gibson. That could have took him out, could have got him a concussion, and then without Gibson, we have to rely on Miller and another backup. And not saying Miller's a bad goalie, but I don't think he can handle the workload that Gibson has. So with that, I'm like, okay. And then it just reading too. Last in the playoffs, he did a play similar, like a boarding call. Same thing. The guy went with the puck right away, wrapped it around the boards, and he had that second or two to stop or just slow himself down, but he didn't. He went and finished his check and got suspended for that game, I believe, too. So it's, I don't know. I still don't think he should have got a suspension for it, but a fine was there, and he has to start learning. Like, obviously he's not learning his lesson by supplemental penalties or disciplines on for those dips at the Department of Player Safety. So I think on this case, he needs some ice justice. He needs just a knuckle sandwich or two to really get him to to kind of back off, especially with goalies. Like goalies, you try to make the minimum contact possible. It doesn't matter if he leaves his crease. The rule states all because a goalie leaves his crease, it doesn't mean he's fair game in quotes. So it's just I'm happy with the with the fine, but I would have been kind of disappointed with the suspension.
Yeah, I think part of it here is you're trying to look at this play and say, okay, could he have stopped or not? I don't know if he could have stopped completely, but the thing is that he doesn't decide to stop. He decides to try to skate through it. But not only does he decide to do that, he jumps and hits Gibson in the head. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, turn your back to the glass and try to slide past Gibson like a lot of players do. Instead, he tries to do this jump move and hits him in the head. I mean, like, you're dumb, dude. Like, what are you doing? I mean, I don't think it was intentional, like you said. I don't think it was worthy of being suspended. Definitely a fine, because anything with head contact is definitely a big issue now. We've seen that in football. We see that in hockey. And any time that happens. So I don't know what he was thinking, other than he probably was like, hey, you know what? I can't stop. I'm going to try and jump around him, which was a poor decision. He should have tried to slide past him instead, which we've seen players do that. They turn their back, they slam up against the glass, and he probably still would have contacted him, but not in the head. That was the issue, I think, on this play, was the head contact. So... but I'm with you. I think the league got it right. They fined him. They didn't suspend him. I'm okay with that, with the way it went down. And, the Ducks ended the losing streak. They won this game. They beat the defending champs. And we thought everything was good. The Ducks then go into Washington to play another team that had only lost 3 games of regulation. And I don't know. There's so much to talk about in this game against Washington, Eddie. The Ducks go into this game. They give up a goal early to panic. They give up a power play goal to Ovechkin in the second period. And then all hell breaks loose in the final minute of the second period. Stephenson scores. There's a fight with like the entire team on the ice. There's some spitting. There's all kinds of craziness that unfolds at the end of the second period. The Ducks end up going down 3-0 going into the into the third period, and they get down 4-0, and then they try to rally back and get some goals, and they end up losing this game overall. But I really thought the Ducks didn't play that bad in this game. I just thought that the stuff that unfolded in the second period was just crazy. And it's weird. You thought that the Ducks were playing maybe the Sharks or the Kings or the Predators in this game instead of the Capitals, Eddie. This game, it went ballistic the second half.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for a hockey fan, it's fun to watch, except that goal. It was just bad. And the Hathaway incident, which we'll get on right now in a little bit. But I agree with you. I just to back up, I don't think the Ducks played that bad in this game. They played a better team. They have a couple superstars on their team, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Carlson too. Back in the blue line, he's one of their. I think he's one of the top leaders in the points right now in defense. Like, they have an all-around solid team. They have a really gritty team too. Some players like Tom Wilson that loves to throw his body around, but if you give him that time and space, he can put that puck in back of the net and create opportunities too. But I think the Ducks held their own, and I wasn't too upset that the Ducks lost this game, because I like the way they played. Like, they played with, they can keep their heads up a game like this, minus what happened in that second period. And if you want to start breaking into that, because I know a lot of people are probably just telling us like, okay, guys, shut the hell up and talk about the fights.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the second period was just ridiculous. So Washington, in that part, Hathaway blows up Grant by the side of the net, and then a melee ensues behind. They pass the puck out, and Stephenson shoots it in, and there's a goal scored. Everybody starts fighting. They take the goal off the board. They add the goal back, and then they say it counts. And I mean, there's all kinds of craziness going on in here. But there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's 2 parts of this, I guess, and we can kind of talk about it. Hathaway hits Grant. I know some people were talking about interference, but Grant had a hold of the puck, so I don't think it was an interference call. But if you talk about charging, I think a penalty of charging could have been called there. If you look at NHL Rule 42, it says that charging means the actions of a player or goalkeeper who, as a result of distance traveled, shall violently check an opponent in any manner. A charge may be the result of a check into the boards, into the goal frame, or in open ice, which is exactly what happened here. This is open ice. So they didn't call charging, and the play kept going. I didn't hear any whistle at all, And of course, a melee ensued. Everybody was, people went after Hathaway. Then other Capitals players came in there. There was a big, melee behind the net. And, I was disappointed. I don't think the goal should have counted. Either you call charging there on Hathaway and the play's blown dead, or there's fighting and then the play's blown dead. Either way, there should have been a whistle before that goal crossed the line. And again, like you said, I don't think the Ducks would have won this game. I'm not blaming the refs on this game as far as these calls and whether or not it would have changed the outcome. I don't think about that. But the refs lost control of this game, and they let too much stuff go on in this sequence. That goal resulted. We'll kind of talk about that, I guess, Eddie, what you thought about that initial part, and then we'll kind of get into the Gudbranson and Hathaway part, because that's kind of the second part of this whole nonsense that happened at the end of the period. But as far as the initial part, what did you think about Hathaway's hit on Grant, and then no whistle being called and all that kind of part, I guess?
Well, it's as a Ducks fan, and I guess an unfan of Hathaway now, I hate that hit, and I hate, I think it should have been called, but then that'd be hypocritical on everything that I stand for and believe in hockey, because I like that physical part of the game, and I don't think the initial hit should have been anything called. It was just, he dropped his shoulder. It's a good hit, separating the player from the puck, and I personally don't think it should have been a call. If it was vice versa and it was Richie throwing a hit on Hathaway, the same thing, I mean, I bet a lot of Ducks fans would have a different opinion on that. So, like, I kind of want to take that bias out of being a Ducks fan and throw that out there. Like, I don't think that should have been a hit, or that should have been a penalty. It was a nice, clean hit, and, like, big, solid hits like that are missing from today's game. What makes the game exciting and what's part of hockey. However, I don't think that goal should have counted. They started fighting after that hit, and usually, the referees are flying in there, blowing their whistle and trying to break things up when players even brush each other. And just this game, all of a sudden, the refs want to let it go and not even attempt to blow the whistle until after the goal score. It's like, okay, what's going on? Other games, two willing combatants are really to fight at it, and a ref's like flying in like Superman or someone that's offering free Disney Plus or something. They're so quick to get in there. But this game, we have what 5 players behind the net just scrapping and throwing blows, and the refs are just sitting there with a finger up their ass waiting for the Capitals to score. It's like, okay, well, what's going on? Are you selling the Capitals cocaine or something? You guys all are conspiracy and cahoots and your little cocaine dealings over there. We know the Capitals, some other players have problems with that. That's the thing that pissed me off the most. Like, that shouldn't have been a goal. Regardless if the Ducks would have won or not, or if this game was really meant for the Capitals to win, that still shouldn't have been a goal. Like, right when that fight's to happen, you should just blow your whistle and try to get in there like you guys do every other game. But I don't know, just the officials this season from last year, it's just getting worse and worse. Like, they are terrible, and it's not just the Ducks games I'm watching. I watch a lot of the Avalanche games. I watch whatever hockey's on. If the Avs or the Ducks aren't playing, I'll just watch to watch. And seen some of the calls, and like I was watching I forgot who the Kings were playing. A few bad calls on them. I was like, oh my god, I'm actually siding with the Kings. But it was just, they're terrible. Like, man, I don't want to wish harm or anyone to get hurt, but I think some of these refs need to eat a few pucks and get their heads out of their ass.
Yeah, and I think a few analysts should eat a few pucks too, because I called in on the Duck Call show right after the game, and Josh Brewster and whoever he had on there, the guy named was Adam, they were both like, oh yeah, this goal should have counted, no big deal. And I'm like, you guys are smoking crack. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So, I don't know what they saw on there, but like you said, you could debate the charging play. It wasn't interference because Grant did touch the puck. You can go back and forth about whether or not it's charging. But if you say, okay, it's not charging, fine. Everybody's fighting. And they're fighting well before that shot is ever taken. So that play should not have counted. Even the other guy, what's his name? Pete Blackburn, whoever that guy is, he posted something too on Twitter about, well, the Ducks started a fight and they should have worried about the puck. Okay, I get it. But really, dude, your teammate gets blown up right next to the net. You're just going to stand there and not do anything? Think about it, dude. You haven't played hockey. You probably don't understand the sport. So whatever. But I don't think the Ducks did anything wrong there. I mean, obviously the whistle's not blown. You can't stop playing until the whistle is blown, which I think Gibson kind of did on that play, because you could kind of see him. He didn't really go after that shot. He kind of just stood there. So maybe Gibson should have at least blocked it like a real shot, and it wouldn't have gone in. Instead, he's just there, and it goes in, and he's just thinking, well, it's not going to count because of all this nonsense, which is what we all thought. So, whatever. So all that stuff goes on. They count the goal, which is, I'm sorry, it's BS. They counted it. And then you have Gudbranson and Hathaway go at it. Gudbranson gives Hathaway a little bit of a punch. Then Hathaway decides to spit in Gudbranson's face. As we learned, there's going to be a hearing for that to see what they're going to say. But this is just a bunch of nonsense. And Hathaway's reaction to that, his comment is, quote, "Unfortunately, spit came out of my mouth after I got sucker punched and it went on to him." I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he should watch the replay, because he spit well after Gudbranson gave him a little punch there. So I don't know. That guy Hathaway has no class. I do hope he is suspended. It's the right thing. And since some people disagreed, I was surprised that some people thought, oh, there should be no goal. It's not a big deal. We did a poll on Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, 80% of you said that the goal shouldn't have counted. On Facebook, 89% of you said that the goal shouldn't have counted. So, I throw it out there. I like to not just say it's my opinion or Eddie's opinion on this show or on social media. I like to do the poll questions and see what other people think. But a majority of people think the goal shouldn't have counted. And it shouldn't have, period. I don't know what some of these guys are saying for AM 830 or CBS. Maybe they should hire some other people, but they got it wrong. And Hathaway should be suspended. And like you said, Eddie, I'm not mad that the Ducks lost this game. I don't know that they necessarily should have won it, but the refs lost control of this game, and it shouldn't have got to this point.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And just a key note on these polls that we give on Twitter, we retweet them from our personal accounts, and we have a lot of people that aren't Ducks fans that follow our personal accounts, so they add their input. So it's not just we're putting a poll strictly on a Ducks platform. It usually gets shared, to my personal social media platform, which I have a ton of people that don't like the Ducks, that are Kings fans or are this fans, and so it's not just we're posting it on a Ducks platform strictly only for Ducks fans. So just throwing that out there so people won't think that it's just biased. But to rewind a little bit on Hathaway. Some people are saying that it's Gudbranson's fault and justifying Hathaway spitting on him, but saying a sucker punch, like, okay, well, you want to talk about sucker punches? Hathaway had Grant to the floor, elbowing him in the head multiple times, and then if you guys didn't catch it, we posted the clip on our DucksNPucks page. I might make a GIF of it to specifically target that area, but he kneed him in the head while he was down with his knee. I don't know why no one made a big deal about that. And then I can't understand and justify how a grown ass man can spit on another person. That is the most disrespecting thing you can ever be. Like, you are a low class piece of shit if you're gonna spit on someone. And then you have people defending him, like trying to compare a sucker punch that Hathaway deserved because he was screwing with Gudbranson's neck thing and was pulling it, so he should have left it alone. So he got that little rabbit punch. That doesn't justify you spitting on someone. That's just, man, I'm telling you, like, Gudbranson, if you're arguing that it's Gudbranson's fault because he had that little rabbit punch and that warranted spitting, then you obviously have been living in a bubble and you never probably had a fist to your face. You don't know anything about respect. It's just, man, I'm not as young as people. I'm not in my 20s. I'm 32. And I have a level of respect. And if someone comes and they're going to spit in my face, you best believe you're not going to walk away from that. And if I do lose that battle, I'm going to win the war. Because that's just the most lowest thing you can do. And then him not even owning up to it. Him justifying it. And his little sarcastic little, oh, well, after the sucker punch, spit flew out of my mouth. Dude, be a man. Man up and fess up to what you did. You let your emotions get to you. You had a bitch moment. And no, now you just look like even more of a bitch. And I'm sorry if this offends anyone, and I apologize for that. But I had a bunch of people, and saying the same thing on Twitter. A lot of female fans referring to him as a bitch too on Twitter. It just, I hope he gets suspended, and I hope he's there come December when the Capitals visit Honda Center, and I really hope that he gets some, ice justice, because that's just uncalled for.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Like I said, you thought this game was the Ducks against like the Sharks or the Kings or even the Predators. And yeah, they're going to meet again in December. And I hope the Ducks beat the crap out of them. I don't even care if the Ducks win that game. I hope they just beat the crap out of them. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to encourage. I'm not trying to encourage violence, but this is just ridiculous. What Hathaway did is uncalled for. I don't care if you want to say that Gudbranson's shot was a cheap shot or not. What Hathaway did before that was a cheap shot. So you got cheap shot and cheap shot going back and forth by both those players. But to spit in somebody, that's actually a crime out on the street. If you don't know that, that's assault and battery. You can look up the definition. I'll read it to you, actually. It talks about it. It says assault refers to an act which causes the victim to apprehend immediate physical harm. And battery refers to the actual act. And that's what happened. He spit, which was the immediate physical harm, and then it actually hit him in the face. So if that happened in the street, he would have been charged with assault and battery. So we've seen a lot of stuff back in the history of hockey with people with sticks and whatnot getting charged with assault with a deadly weapon because you're carrying around a stick and hitting a player. He's lucky he's not criminally charged in this. It's ridiculous. It's uncalled for. And then his response is a joke. He should have just manned up and said, yeah, I got mad, I spit at him. And you know what? I would have taken that. I would have been like, you know what, Hathaway? I can appreciate that. At least you admitted your emotions got to you, and you did that. But instead, you didn't. You made a thing out of it. Well, he punched me. Yeah, dude, that was after you friggin' kneed him and punched him. Like, what are you talking about? So, this game just irritated the hell out of me. We had a watch party, too, for this game. And, of course, the Ducks lost. The Ducks are now... we've had 3 watch parties this year, and they've lost every time. So maybe we're not going to have any more watch parties. I don't know. But the Ducks lost this one. I don't think that they should have won it. Regardless, but the refs did let the game get out of control. I just hope the league takes the proper discipline against Hathaway and see what they do. So with that, the Ducks, they're still on the road trip, Eddie, and they're still fighting out. They still got games to go, but what a crazy game in the nation's capital.
Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to add. You're talking about how the referees need to get control, but Gudbranson and Hathaway, they wanted to go. And the refs were just right in the middle of their faces. Both of them had, were just ready to go. Back up, step back, let them throw blows. Let them both fight. Once one player falls, get in the middle of them. End of that. No sucker punch would have been thrown. Gudbranson wouldn't have got spat on. It would have been done and done. And we wouldn't have been talking about supplemental discipline. That's it. So I think the referees have some responsibility on this too. You have 2 willing combatants. This is hockey. Let them fight. Just let them go. Once they hit the ice, then jump in there and gain that control. But when you're just holding one arm over 2 of these players that are in a heated state of agitation and you expect them not to do anything, no, let them get that out. They're big boys. They're both willing to go. Like, just let them fight. And I think the ref escalated it by that point. It's like just having his one little hand. That's what irritates me. Like, some plays they won't blow a whistle, but then they jump in there and they just make everything worse. It just gets frustrating. And I want to talk too, if the tables were turned and Gudbranson was the one that spat on Hathaway, I'd be saying the same thing about Gudbranson, because that's just, it doesn't matter who the player is. That is just uncalled for.
Yeah, absolutely. If the tables were reversed, that's what I would say too. I'm not just saying it because it's Washington, but it is. I mean, the guy did that. If one of our guys did that, I wouldn't accept that. I'd be embarrassed, So to hear some people defending Hathaway, sorry, dude. I don't know what you're doing, but you're wrong. And that goal shouldn't have counted. What Hathaway did was uncalled for. But we'll have to wait for the rematch in December, and I can't wait. I hope the Ducks just pound the crap out of Washington. I'm just tired of them. I think that this game got out of hand. And it was ridiculous. And it was weird. I really didn't think... I mean, we've seen some kind of crazy games with the Ducks and the Capitals, some high-scoring games. We've seen the Ducks come back and beat them. Wild things like that. This was something I completely did not expect. the amount of hatred on the ice there. They really also hated Brendan Gooley in this game. They were going after him left and right in this game. I felt Gooley just got murdered in this game. So I was happy to see the Ducks at least stand up for themselves and do what they need to do in this game. But I mean, on all the games so far this season, Eddie, regardless of the outcome, this one had to be the wildest one the Ducks have played, so far.
Oh yeah, it went out of hand. I couldn't believe that second period just went nuts. I was like, holy crap! I was about to go play hockey too at 8:30. I had 2 games, and that Capitals and Ducks game just fired me up. And adding that pre-workout, I was flying. But man, that was just one of the craziest games. And unfortunately, it would have been cool if the Ducks would have snuck and got a win out of this one. But you're right too. I was wondering, what the hell did Gooley do? Did he? Like, they were just on him, like, from the beginning. It was like, man, is there bad blood? Was there something that he did in Buffalo against Washington that they didn't like, and they're paying him back? Especially Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson just kept going after Gooley, and he tried to knock him down, and then Tom Wilson ends up falling and then goes and tries to throw a punch at Gooley. It's like, man, poor guy. But you know what? He held his own, and when things got rough, he was in the mix. He didn't back down, even being a lot smaller than Tom Wilson. So have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This game, I don't know. I just shake my head. I just kind of going off, and I don't want to keep going off about it. So, I mean,
it's just... Oh yeah, I was gonna say too. We saw all your comments on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, and we really appreciate the comments. We try to answer as many as we can, but so with things like that, when we're consistently posting and we have a bunch of different responses, it's hard to get back to everyone. But I just want to throw it out there for those listening, and thank you for participating in the discussions in the comments when we post videos. We do appreciate that, and we do read all of them, even if we don't respond to each and every one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys make this show. That's why we do the podcast polls and whatnot. We're kind of halfway through the show, so I'll kind of throw out the sponsor right now, which Eddie worked on this. We have OC Animal Care has been kind of helping out with us this season as well. And they have different events coming up. Actually, right now, November 16th to the 24th, you can adopt different pets. So check out OC Animal Care. They're at 1630 Victory Road in Tustin, and they're helping us out. So if you like dogs, or you like cats, or you like both, check them out. And we're happy to have them on there. Eddie and I both talked about pets being near and dear to our heart. So that's something to look forward to. We'll be posting different things. Like we talked about in the previous show, there's no more Angelo Cogliano, obviously, no more Cogs for Dogs, but we're kind of doing this to kind of have a pet connection with the team for this season and moving forward. So look for that. They're sponsoring this podcast this time around. And with that, we'll get to the interview with Teemu Selanne. I had him do about 15-minute interview yesterday before the Ducks played the Washington Capitals. So here's the interview with Teemu Selanne. All right, joining me now is one of your favorite players of all time, Teemu Selanne. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to be on the show, Teemu.
Anytime.
So I kind of have some topics to go over. There's 8 of them, obviously, because you're number 8. It kind of makes sense. So,
always 8, always 8.
Yeah, always 8, right? I mean, briefly 13 at one point, but yes, always 8. So we'll kind of go through them and just kind of see where it goes. But I guess the first one to start out with is your nickname. I know some guys call you T. I call you Big T once in a while. What about the world's most interesting man? How about that as a nickname?
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
I mean, at least in the hockey world, right, Teemu?
Yeah, well, kind of. But it's actually it's good to have a different nickname. So I don't mind it.
Yeah. Any other nicknames?
Maybe a couple, but we don't have to go that far.
all right. So we'll go with T or Big T for now, right?
Okay, that's good.
Okay. All right. So you had your book that came out recently. That's some of the topics I'll cover here. But is it true? I guess in Finland, when you were there, you had to do 1 year in the military there. Was it the army, or how does that work in Finland?
Yeah, so in Finland we have mandatory army service. It's either 6 months, 9 months, or 11 months.
Uh-huh.
And first 3 months is pretty much basic training for everybody, and then they rank you, and they usually try to put the higher rank uh, people to the 11 months program. And then so I was 11 months, and it's kind of tough when you go there. Obviously, it's a tough, good school, but I think I think when you go there as a boy and you come back as a man, it's a really good school.
Oh, that's awesome. What rank were you when you were there?
So I was at the 11 months program. So technically, I'm just running the own little squadron, like 7 people. We are the people that we're gonna go find the enemies, if we have to. They usually try to put the athletes who are in good shape, that the jobs that needs a lot of in good shape, and can handle the pressure and stuff. So, but hopefully we don't have to go that kind of road. So, but it's like I said, I think Finns, we are very proud of that. We have that own army, and we can protect ourselves if we have to.
Yeah, awesome. Another thing in there too that you mentioned, I guess you were a kindergarten teacher at some point.
Yeah, so when I was done with the army, I tried to be just a professional hockey player, but at the time, nobody was like a full pro, and so our practice were always like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night. So I had this whole day to kill. I was just so bored, and it started affecting my training and games, because I didn't have enough things in my life. So and then my mom was working in that industry like 30 years, and when I was like 15, I was helping her in the kindergarten. So then she asked me that if I want to go like 3 times a week, 4 hours a day there, and I said okay, yeah, let's try that. And I was there like 4 times a week, and loved it. It was just I was there over 2 years, and I think I was in the same mental level than there. So I had a lot of fun.
Now, I mean, for that, did you have to have a lot of patience, Teemu? I mean, you had kids, they're like 5, 6 years old. I mean, how does that work?
I have, but I've always liked kids, and technically I was just running all the sports and all the activities, and then I was helping in the classroom like a hour and a half or something. So it was perfect balance for my life at the time, and right away I could see the big difference in my hockey game too. It was like night and day. So it was good thing for me, and I've always liked the kids, and it was good job for me.
Hey, when I was in kindergarten, if you were my teacher, I would have listened to you. That's for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
So you had the book, is your big thing lately. I know it came out in 2014 in Finland, and then it came out this year. Any changes from that year to this year, or was it just translated into English?
No, it's a different book kind of. There's some, of course, there's some same stories, but we have changed quite much and more focus in this U.S. Canadian market. So more stories about life here, and the Finnish one was more like a coffee table book. It's huge and heavy, and this is more like a normal book. So it has been a fun process, And first I was not so excited about the English version, but then I'm after all, I'm happy that we did it. It's something that lasts forever, and I hope there's some stories that people like it.
Yeah, well, one of the stories, I remember we talked about this too, was you teaching Getzlaf how to do donuts. You want to talk about that in the Honda Center?
Well, yeah, Getz, he likes cars too. I saw him a couple of times how to make the donuts, and he tried to do that too. And it was so funny. One time it was the one day before the Stanley Cup Finals at the Honda Center. We are leaving same time for the practice, and then he asked me again, like, just show me one more time how to do it. And so I was doing the donuts, and the smoke everywhere. And he tried a little bit, and then I said, okay, jump in my car, and I show you how I had like a manual gearbox. So I said how it works. So then I showed again, and then all of a sudden 2 people are walking to us, and he saw the badge, and we are like, oh, now we're in trouble, two policemen, and then Getzy, he was already walking to his car, so he took off. He left me there, and then the cops asked me like, who was that guy? I said, well, he was my teammate. I said, who was it? So I wasn't sure if I want to tell who he was. But then I said, okay, he was Getzlaf. And then he said, okay, yeah, we know you. We know who you guys are. We are doing the inspection for tomorrow's finals, And then he said, okay, guys, we need you on the ice. So just go and get ready for tomorrow. And tell Getzy what a great friend he is. He left you here. So so it was pretty funny, but obviously, it was not the smartest thing to do. But at least it was in the parking spot that nobody can get hurt or something. So it was funny.
Yeah, and I know that we joke about this before. You talk about driving around and whatnot. And I tell you, slow down on Oso Parkway or Antonio. You know what I mean? I can help you out. Wink, wink, a little bit. With what I do with my real job. But you've kind of toned that down a little bit, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Normally I don't drive fast in the normal traffic. I used to race cars when I was younger, and the racetrack and the place where it is safe, it's fine to drive fast and do some stuff, but not in the normal traffic. That's not the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Getzlaf, he played his 1,000th game as a Duck. The Ducks also played their 1,000th game at home at Honda Center. You played almost 1,500 games in the NHL and just under 1,000 with the Ducks. What's your best memory of playing for Anaheim? I mean, obviously outside the Stanley Cup, we all know that was probably number 1. But what other memories, playing with Anaheim, would you say rank up there?
Well, the thing is, obviously, I saw, the times when we were struggling and we barely make the playoffs, and you knew that you're not gonna win the Stanley Cup. Obviously the first stint, I had a chance to play with Paul. Not so often you find the teammate that the chemistry is so good between 2 players, and the hockey was so easy with him. And so I think the first stint that was the nicest memory, and the second time obviously the Stanley Cup, like you mentioned, and playing the winning team. That everybody is expecting to win, and everybody's take a lot of pride to have success. So it was kind of like it was great journey, and we have our core players were long time same guys, and I think that would make the team very special. But Ducks have always been so special place for me, and they have been treating me so well and everything. So there's so many great memories, and obviously I always play with the great players. So it was quite easy for me. But there's a good memories, and it's still fun to be a little part of that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on this season? The Ducks, they started out strong. They were on a losing streak, but then they beat the defending champs, the St. Louis Blues. What do you think about the team this year?
You know what? I told right away that I think this team can surprise a lot of people. We have a pretty nice combination of older players and a lot of good young players. I think the young players are still a little too young to carry the team, but they're still. It's so funny. These young guys, they're not really that young anymore. Even the numbers are, but they play in the way how they prepare the NHL. It's unbelievable how ready they are right away, and so sometimes it takes a little time to get used to it. But I think this team can really surprise a lot of people, and then guys like Getzlaf and those guys, they have to be the best players. And I like the Getzlaf how he has played so far. So I think they have enough tools to really play well. I think we have 2 best goaltenders in the league. So, there's a lot of good things, and obviously you just need to get confidence going. You don't want to start losing 5-6 games, or something like that, because then you lose the confidence as a team, and it's also hard to bounce back. But, I have a lot of faith for this team. I think, they can do really well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, they played well, against the good teams, Edmonton, St. Louis, and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how they do the rest of the way. For you, what's the plan? I know we talked about coaching before. You kind of were like, I don't think I'm going to do that. So is that in the future, or is maybe broadcasting in the future? Like, what's next for the Big T?
That's a good question. I'm still waiting what I'm gonna be when I grow up. So, but the coaching and in the hockey business overall, like, you have to be 100% commitment when you go there. It's like another career. As a coach, you spend more time on the rink than as a player, and it's obviously a different pressure. But so far I haven't really got that feeling that I want to be part of that, and that I'm ready to give that much my time. I've been quite selfish with my time right now, and living 30 years with somebody else schedule, I've been really enjoying that. I can manage my own time and schedule. But I'm still waiting that if I get itchy for be a part of the team and hockey overall, and so far I haven't really got that feeling, but you never know. But like I said, you gotta be ready if you decided to go and get back to hockey.
Well, I mean, that's true, and I mean, you could kind of maybe go the path of Scotty Niedermayer. I mean, you could help out the team while they're at home and not have to go on the road. Maybe be kind of that kind of role. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I had a couple of dinners with Dallas Eakins, who's the coach, and I used to play with him actually in Winnipeg and everything. So he's a great guy, and he has a good vision about what I could do. So I think first I would be like the mentor for the young guys and start coming in for a couple times a week and hang around, and I think that's one what I could do, and I kind of missed that locker room life, but I said, okay, let me think about it, and I don't want to rush anything. So, that's something that I could do it, and then maybe get another feeling that how much I want to really spend time there. So let's see what happens. We are talking that let's see what happens, but no plans right now.
No, I get it, and I mean, you've got all your stuff going on, and I just thank you for coming on the show. It's been a couple times before that you've been on here, so I appreciate it, Teemu.
Hey, Mike, anytime.
And that was the interview with Teemu Selanne. Eddie, what did you think? He came on there. He talked about his book. Getzlaf's 1,000th game. It doesn't look like he's going to do any coaching anymore, but or at least try to do it, I should say. But what did you think about Teemu coming on the show and sharing his thoughts about his book and the team?
It's just really great, and thank you, Selanne, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And just him giving his time to come and talk some hockey to us. It's just, he's I don't know if he thinks or if he knows who the person he is. Like, you're you're a legend. You're probably, like, in my eyes, you're the greatest athlete in the whole world. And you take the time to talk on our podcast. It's just something amazing. And it's funny. He's just so happy. You can just feel his positive energy. Every interview he gives, every interaction, the podcast, you can just, he's not forced. He just loves it, and he just loves to talk hockey. He loves the game. When he talks about it, and you ask him questions, how he laughs, you just see a picture of a little kid, Teemu Selanne, first seeing hockey at the age of 12 when he first saw his first NHL games. Just that passion is still there, and I love that from him. The whole nickname thing was kind of funny. I was hoping to mention his first unofficial nickname when he went to the Winnipeg Jets training camp. One of the defensemen gave him a nickname called Holy Shit, because that was like kind of the only words he knew and the only words he would say. So that's in his book too. What we're gonna do on Saturdays now, we're gonna call it Selanne Saturday, which has been the hashtag. It's been that some people have been using, but we're gonna pull some random fact out of Selanne's book, and we're gonna put it like a trivia thing. We're gonna ask the question, put forward responses, and then we're gonna quote and retweet the real answer. But if you guys haven't checked it out yet, they have it on Amazon. It's like $28. It's a great read, a great book. I couldn't put it down. I was reading pages over and over again. It took me 2 nights to read because I was just rereading pages over again. Oh, I liked one chapter. Let me go reread it again. Then I thought, oh, I want to start taking notes on the book, and I want to start posting like trivia questions. So with that, we are also going to give away a Selanne signed copy of his book. So stay tuned for that. We're going to post it on our social media platforms. So hopefully you'll be that lucky winner. And when you do, just get the book and don't put it down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing to have him on the show. He's been on a couple times. Just always a great person when it comes to the fans and whatnot and interaction. So thank you, Teemu, for being on the show again. And we'll see, we may have him on in the future as well. So let's wrap up the show. Still plenty to talk about. We have a lot of stuff going on in the league news. Eddie, again, more stuff with the refs screwing things up, for a lack of a better term. So let's kind of talk about some of the stuff going on around the league as we finish up the show.
Well, we're going to start off with a really hot topic after the Don Cherry incident was Just Allen from CTV. CTV is a Canadian social opinion debate show. I believe it's kind of equivalent to the United States The View, or they just go and talk about their opinions on what's going on and argue about it amongst themselves. Well, Just Allen, one of the personalities in the show, she made a statement about how she doesn't worship the altar of hockey, and that how, specifically targeting, like, they're a bunch of white boys who weren't very nice. They weren't thoughtful, and they were often bullies, and talk about how, like, their parents could afford to spend $5,000 on minor hockey. They should be traveling the world, and just making disgusting comments like that. And I mean, yeah, last show I didn't want to get into to agree or disagree with Don Cherry. I just believe his platform was wrong. I guess her platform's a little different. However, I think this was a disgusting remark that targeted and generalized a certain race of people, and nothing happened to her. CTV gives out this half-ass apology saying, "We apologize," quote, "we apologize to everyone who was offended by the remarks," quote. Okay, like, what kind of apology is that? So you're saying it's okay for your rating 2.8 show in Canada that you can just talk crap about white boys that play hockey? That's absolutely bullshit. And you know what, Mike? I'm sorry, but that's fucking ridiculous. I grew up with a lot of those white boys playing hockey. Man, they weren't bullies. They were really thoughtful. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. There's times where I couldn't afford to pay my league fees or club fees, or I couldn't afford to get the new jerseys that they wanted. But no, they would help me out. They wouldn't ask for anything in return. They wanted me just to be there and play and be part of the team. Man, and this interaction when hanging out with these guys too, they were nice and polite to everyone, so friendly and social. What really touched and hurt me too, that really got me really upset, my blood boiling, is one of the fathers from the Humboldt Broncos bus crash. His son that passed away, and other players that passed away. He called her out saying, like, his son died. Like, you don't know his son or all the other players that died to be generalizing everyone of hockey because you had a couple bad experiences of you had a couple bad apples. There's bad apples everywhere, unfortunately, in life. But to say that kind of hit home, and I think those were just disgusting comments, and just that show, I never even heard of it until now, but they're now infamous, and I can't believe people can agree with that, and that's okay to target specific race and to generalize people like that. That's just, oh man. I mean, you know what? I talked about how spitting on someone is extremely disrespectful. I think I just hawked one right at her face because what she said was absolutely disgusting in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like you said, Don Cherry said some stuff over the time. We knew what happened. We talked about it on the last show. And, like, we're not taking sides here. We throw stuff out there. You guys, we have our poll questions. You guys, vote on them. You respond with questions and whatnot. But you have what happened to him, and then you have this Just Allen girl doing this and nothing. So, I mean, I'm just kind of confused here. So, we're going to get mad at him, but not her. What's going on here? I don't get it. And it doesn't matter what race you're talking about, whether it's white, black, purple, yellow, green, whatever. I don't get it. So, I just don't understand. It's unfortunate. But if you're going to hold one guy to standard, then you should hold the other person. And that's my issue with that, Eddie.
Yeah, same here. And I'll backtrack. It does matter when you said the colors because green, a Minnesota Wild. So I'll be discriminatory against the green. is that part? Talking about the Wild, but because we all know my deep, passionate hatred for the Wild. But yeah, it's just. Yeah, I'm sorry I went off on a little rant there, and I'm sorry I dropped the F-bomb. I tried. I bit my tongue a lot. I probably have a scar on my tongue right now. And that really hit home because I grew up with this sport. I love this game. I love this game. I can put this game as much as I love this game with my friends and family in that category. I live for this game. The first thing I do before I go to sleep, I'm checking every news article of new things, any news that breaks. If I have an idea in the middle of the night to design something or create or write a story, I'm taking notes or I'm writing it. You can ask Mike. He gets text messages at 3, 4 in the morning, just random ideas or things that I make. The first thing I do, and when I wake up in the morning, I make sure my parents are okay. I'm not getting an emergency phone call. But the next thing I'm doing is checking my phone to see what's going on in the hockey world, just to be there and post and learn about it. I love this game with the passion, and someone that talks down to it and down to all the players I grew up playing with. A few of them that went on to be semi-pros, one pro, and just no, I am the person I am today because of hockey, and I don't know how my life, growing up the way I did, not having the best things and growing up poor, I don't know how my life would have turned out if I didn't get attached to this game of hockey and be surrounded by the people that I was surrounded by. I mean, looking now, like I never felt a sense of purpose than I do, and then talking about hockey and being part of this sport. And I really hope I continue this path, and I'm going to make this sport some in my future because, I want to be one of those people that goes to a job that I love so I can never work a day in my life. So just that specific thing just really ticked me off how she said that. So, I mean, it's done and over with now. We obviously hearing the half-ass apology and her half-ass apology, she's just an ugly person inside out. It's just disgusting that her thought process is like that. And I really hope that one day she just has an open mind and starts hanging out and getting to know the sport and the players more, so she doesn't have that generalization of the few people that made her think that way. I hope that she can, I know Paul Bissonnette invited her to come to a Coyotes game, and he can show her how hockey players are, so she can get a better understanding. You know what? Even though I'm upset about the comments, I hope that she can just open her mind and really, be around the sport and the players that represent the sport, and they can show her that other side of it and how hockey players are probably one of some of the best people on the planet.
I agree with you 100%. I'll just have to see what happens from here on out. I mean, she apologized, but still, like you said, kind of, half-hearted. So, you just kind of see what they do from here on out. I just don't understand the double standard between her and Don Cherry. If you're going to treat one way, you should treat them both the same way. I don't know. Maybe things are different in Canada, but you got a couple other league news you want to talk about, Eddie, as we wrap up the show?
Yeah, speaking of Don Cherry, his podcast dropped today called The Grapevine. So it's on Spotify. He goes into a little bit detail about the firing. Not too much that people were hoping for. That they were hoping for more, Don Cherry, I guess. How it described it, it's gonna be a longer version of Coach's Corner, and they're gonna add clips of his old show, The Grapevine, when he was interviewing former players of the past. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. Other league news: Roberto Luongo took an advisory role with the Panthers front office that caused kind of some controversy because the Panthers do owe him still until the 2021-22 season about $1 million since his retirement, and then the Vancouver Canucks until the same year, 2021-2022, they owe him about $3 million and some change. So a lot of the Canucks fans or media got upset thinking that he was just kind of taking an advisory role to work for the Panthers, making that money that they owe him. That's not the case. He's going to be making an additional amount to take that advisory role on top of the money that Florida owes him, and then he's still getting the money that Vancouver owes him. I don't know why that was such an issue, but that's kind of said and done, and he's over there. And I really hope he gets into TV personality or something, because that guy is funny as hell. I would love to see him. Him and Brzgalov doing a podcast together. Oh man, forgot about it. That'd be funny.
That would be hilarious.
TJ Brodie of the Calgary Flames unfortunately had a really scary collapse on the ice. He's described as having seizures. He had to be rushed to the hospital, and that was really, really scary to see. Scary to read as a fan. He's going through a bunch of tests right now. He's out indefinitely. So, like, my thoughts and prayers are with him, and hopefully everything works out. Hopefully he gets back on the ice. If not, hopefully he has a healthy life. New Jersey's Cory Schneider, surprisingly, was put on waivers. Him and his $6 million cap hit. His put on waivers for the purpose of getting sent down to the AHL. They want him to get his confidence in his game back. He was their goalie of the future, and he helped the Devils, reach that playoff spot. And after the hip, it just went down. He just never been the same, and he lost his starting role. And unfortunately, then for him, he has to go down and prove himself again. And I wish him the best of luck. It's sad to see a player, especially of his caliber, to get to go down in the minors, but hopefully he can get some more playing time. It's a little slower down there. He can just maybe the hip wasn't as good. He can get some more rehab and maybe earn a spot and come back. It's happened before. You look at players like Devin Dubnyk that was waived how many times, and then he's now an elite goalie with the I'm not gonna say their name, but he's an elite goalie. So that was pretty sad to see. But I wish him all the best. We have two more league news. We're gonna go into the Calvert incident of the Colorado Avalanche when he blocked a puck with his head and he was laying there on the ice bloody, no call. Before that, we're gonna talk about Mike. You mentioned Darcy Kemper and the Arizona Coyotes and the Calgary Flames, a little line brawl.
Yeah, this one was hilarious. If you saw it, Kachuk and Kemper got into it. They knocked Demers on the ice, and then Kachuk gives him an extra shot, and then Kemper comes out and basically body slams Kachuk on the ice, which I loved it to see a goalie stand up for a player like that. Melee ensues. Kachuk then goes after Kemper again during that melee, and Kemper throws him down again. I just thought it was hilarious. For me, whenever you're watching a hockey game, I don't care what team it is. When a goalie gets involved in a fight, that's like the ultimate thing to me, Eddie.
Oh yeah, same here. And you see Riddick coming from the opposite end of the ice. He's like, he felt left out. He's like, no, I want to get in this too. That was fun to watch, and those games are always, especially when the goalies go at it. Like, oh, that's just fun. Every Ducks game I'm at, or even watching, but specifically the ones that I'm at, like, oh, please piss off Gibson. Like, let's just see a goalie fight. That's it. I see a goalie fight. I don't care if the score is 10-0. Ducks are losing. If I see that goalie fight, I'm going home happy. I might even be happy to buy another $17 beer.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, yeah, it was hilarious. I mean, that whole thing, the way it unraveled, I was just cracking up watching that replay. I didn't see it live. I saw it after the fact. But, like I said, anytime with a goalie, it goes nuts. It's just, I don't know. It's quality entertainment, I guess you could say. And then I guess the other play that you kind of mentioned that kind of upset me too. I mean, I was upset, we both were upset about what happened in the Ducks game with Washington. But this whole thing with Calvert bleeding on the ice, I mean, Eddie, this is just ridiculous. That he's laying on the ice. They don't call anything. The play continues. The other team scores. I'm like, this is even worse. I mean, this isn't even anybody fighting. This is some guy on the ice bleeding. They don't stop the play, allow the other team to score, and then they count the goal. Like, what the you know what?
Oh, yeah. Johnson was pissed off. He threw a few F-bombs about the referees. He said it was an effing joke, which it was. You have a player like Calvert. He's not a player that's going to fake an injury and fake being down. He's a tough guy. He left the Avalanche last season in fighting majors, as well as this season. He's one of those heart and soul players that every team wants on their team, or every fan wants on their team. He's just one of those players that goes out and gives it 110% for his team. He does whatever it takes to make sure the team has a chance to win the game. So in the third period, with about 2:30 remaining, he goes down to block a shot from Pettersson. He gets hit in the head. He goes down, and Pettersson right away saw it, and I guess saw the blood. He tried to, get the official's attention, and then he even stopped while his team's down 4-2 in the third period. He stopped playing for a few seconds because he was so concerned about Calvert. And that just shows a lot of character and class that he has. He's probably one of the best players that Vancouver has. and and they're competitive. They're trying to make their mark, and they're trying to revive their franchise. And for him to kind of be like not care about the score at that point because he sees his fellow hockey player significantly injured, and Calvert tried to get up and leave the ice, but he fell back down, and the refs didn't blow it. They let it go, and he's bleeding on the ice. They finally get scored on. McKinnon was pissed off, as he had a right to be. And I know the rules say that you're not supposed to stop the play if a player's injured unless the other team has the puck or if it's significant. And they left it that it's discretion of the ref. If it's a serious injury, they may stop it. It just something like that has to change. The Avalanche, it's the second time in 2 weeks that a player has got hit in the face with the puck bleeding and the refs didn't call anything. I mean, the Zadorov thing was okay. He was closer to the wall. Maybe that played a factor into it. But Calvert laying there bleeding on the ice is just uncalled for. I mean, there was a goalie a long time ago. I think it's a Sabres goalie that got sliced in the neck by a skate, and luckily they got that towel over there in time and stopped the bleeding. He survived, and I don't know. No one knew this case of Calvert. He could have been bleeding out right there on the ice, and no one's calling the play. Adrian Dater of Colorado Hockey Now, he posted an article, and we'll link it up so you guys can read it. But he talked about not changing the rule because unfortunately you're gonna have some players that might try to take advantage of it, and their team's up and the other team's trying to score and go down. But he suggested if there's blood coming from the head or face area, maybe a rule should be you should stop it immediately, or change or alter that kind of thing, because that was uncalled for. And I don't think anyone in the hockey world would have been pissed off if they would have blew the thing. I don't even think any of Vancouver's fans or the Vancouver team would have been mad if they blew that play dead if they saw Calvert bleeding on the ice. And a lot of hockey players, and that just blew up in the hockey community. You had a Columbus Blue Jackets defenseman that said that was a serious problem. Like that kind of stuff is, those referees dismissed it. I don't know what they're thinking, and it's just really unfortunate. And he's out indefinitely now. He's going through tests, a concussion protocol. So I wish him the best, and I hope he gets back on the ice. And something has to change with that, because that's unacceptable. And if the Ducks are playing the Kings, I don't care. If the Ducks are playing the Wild and a Wild player goes down and his head's bleeding, I don't care if they stop the play. If it costs the Ducks the game, that's okay with me, as long as that player's safety is cared for at the appropriate time. Or not the appropriate time, immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the big thing here is it doesn't matter what team you're rooting for or you're rooting against, but when a player's injured and bleeding, the play has to be stopped. That's just, to me, it's just a no-brainer. And that's even bigger than what happened in the Ducks-Washington game. In that one, you're in a fight, the play should be blown dead too, and they didn't do it. So a lot of controversial calls this week. A lot of stuff we went over. We talked about the Ducks games and whatnot. We did have Teemu on the show, thankfully. Make sure to check out patreon.com/DucksNPucks. We're giving away game tickets and gift cards. George won a $200 gift card last month for October. We're giving one away for this month. So make sure to check out for those giveaways as well. And we'll be back next week with another show. And let's go Ducks.